Hello students, I am Dr. Aruna Mohan from Delhi University. I am here to discuss with you in today's session gametogenesis in female, that is oogenesis. So far we have already discussed what gametogenesis is and what is its significance, why it should take place and what is the result. In female, when gamete is formed, which we call ova, then it is oogenesis. To describe oogenesis in a proper way, it is required to show you this diagram of TS of ovary. You can see the follicles, and now I will concentrate on Graafian follicle. You know that oogenesis is the formation of ova which should take place in the ovary. We also understand the fact that ova will be formed by oogenesis through meiosis or reduction division. But the story of reduction division or formation of gamete is not the way it happened in case of spermatogenesis. Of course, in both the cases gametes are formed, but here the method or the process is slightly different for some reason. In the ovary you can see the Graafian follicle. You can see ovulation taking place or ova coming out, and you can also see the corpus luteum, a functional corpus luteum. As I told you in the previous sessions that functional corpus luteum lies in ovary only for 14 days, and after that it dies, and then it is called corpus elatum. Corpus luteum, because it is yellowish, it is living, and corpus elata means it is white, fibrous and dead. Dying of corpus luteum is important to initiate the next menstrual cycle and formation of ova in the next cycle. Please remember, students, that in case of man, once he starts making the sperms, that is at puberty, the process is continuous every day, every minute, every moment till the last day of his life. But that is not the case with females, that is not the case in women. At puberty, she starts with menstrual cycle and she gives out only one ova in 1 month. So, 12 ovas and 12 months or 1 year. Now try to imagine the reproductive life of female is limited. It starts at 14 and is over by 42, 44 or 46, where she enters into menopause. Now at 40 years, how many ova she will be able to release? From 14 to 44, you can calculate. Not many, some 400. But when we are born as a baby girl, we have millions of follicles in our ovary, and each follicle is capable of producing one ova, and meiotic division will take place in ovary. So, what is happening to other follicles? We are using only 40 or 50, maximum 60. We have thousands of follicles. The answer is these follicles, they support the other follicle which is developing fast, because the follicle which is developing fast will finally result into the formation of Graafian follicle. So, follicles in the neighborhood of this developing follicle will support, give nutrition and help, and that is how the number of follicles goes on reducing. And of course, this is hormonally controlled also. I did tell you there are 2 hormones, female sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, which is coming out right from the ovary from inside. And other than this, there are some hormones coming out from pituitary which also help in cycling mechanism. Also, please appreciate the fact that man has no cyclical activity as far as his reproductive system is concerned, but as far as female is concerned, human female, there is cyclical activity, And of course, it is due to cyclical interplay of hormones, and this cycle begins right in the hypothalamus. So, the female's hypothalamus is cyclical. It cycles and produces hormones in a particular way, and that will make our pituitary cyclical. That will result into cycle in the ovary, and that will result into cycle in the uterus. So, we can call it hypothalamic cycle, pituitary or hypophyseal cycle, then ovarian cycle, then uterine cycle. See how complicated the female system is. And all these cycles, if they go correctly, then only ovulation will take place in the uterine cycle, which we also call menstrual cycle, and it finally leads into bleeding for 4 days. If bleeding is okay for 4 days, that means this female is fertile. If the girl is not having cycle or irregular cycle, there is need to find out why it is happening so. Coming back to ova formation, the oogonia, like in case of testis you had spermatogonia, here you have oogonia, which will give rise to ovum, a female gamete. This oogonia, when it becomes functional, it is primary spermatocyte, it is primary oogonia, and now this primary oocyte or oogonia will undergo divisions, and that division we are going to discuss in detail now, and that will form part of gametogenesis or part of oogenesis in this case. This is the mature follicle which is having a ova, and this ova is definitely haploid, and this is formed after oogenesis. During oogenesis, the first female germ cell, primary oocyte, underwent meiotic division, and the first meiotic division is a reduction division, and it formed 2 cells. The point of difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis is that in spermatogenesis, 1 cell gave rise to 4 cells and hence the 4 sperms. In case of oogenesis, of course, from 1 cell 4 cells will be produced, but only 1 ova, not 4 ova. Why and how? We are going to discuss that. In this particular slide, oviduct and part of uterus, you can see fimbriated end, you can also see ovary. And when ovulation took place, ova came into the fimbriated end, the initial 1/3 of oviduct, and fertilization has to take place here if it is taking. Also numbered by days, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. As I told you, life of ova is 2 days. If it is not fertilized, it will die. Now try to see up to what point it has reached in 2 days, hardly 1/3. And if it is not fertilized, it will die at this point. It will not reach uterus. But if it is fertilized, you can see 2-celled stage at end of 2nd day, and then 4-celled stage towards the 3rd day, and then it is dividing further, because once zygote is formed, division begins 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, and by the time it reaches uterus, the blastula which is formed, initially it is called morula because it looks like morula, mulberry kind of thing, and then it becomes round, it is called blastula, and it is like a ball of cells, and in this stage 16 or 32 cell stage, it reaches uterus. You can see it is getting implanted in the endometrium of uterus, and once implanted, the placenta is formed and further divisions will take place, and baby will form out of this in due course of time. In this slide, I wish to show you a schematic representation of oogenesis. As I told you, the division will begin from oocyte. There are so many oocytes in the ovary. Some will become functional before the other, and these functional oocytes will be called primary oocytes. And this primary oocyte will undergo meiotic division. Please remember, students, that meiotic division takes place only in the sex organs, testes and the ovary, nowhere else in the body. So, now this primary spermatocyte will enter into meiotic division, and the meiotic division has two phases, the first and the second. The first one is reduction division. So, when this primary oocyte divides into two, both are having half the number of chromosomes. But now the point to remember here is that one is bigger in size and other is smaller in size. In case of spermatogonia or in case of gametogenesis in man, both the cells were of equal size. Here it is not so. One is big, one is very small. The small one is called polar body and big one is a cell. Both are having half the number of chromosomes. Now, these two will undergo second division of meiosis, which is simple mitosis, and it will give rise to the bigger one will divide into again unequally, one big and one small, you can see in the slide, and the small polar body if divides, sometimes it divides, sometimes it does not. In some species it divides. If it divides, it will give rise to two polar bodies. So, what is the result? 3 polar bodies and 1 ova. So, division is unequal to make ova big. So, surface area is there for sperm to reach it easily. Also, from this you appreciate one more fact, that out of one female germ cell or oogonia or primary oocyte, we have only 1 ova. We do not have 4 ova, like in case of man we had 4 sperms. And there lies a reason why we produce 1 ova at a time, and hence usually 1 baby at a time. Producing more babies at a time, it is a primitive feature, and producing only 1 baby at a time is an advanced feature, and we have evolved in the course of evolution. But it does not mean if a lady is giving birth to twins, she is a primitive lady. No. You know, then course of evolution, we are carrying some of the characters with us to prove that evolution has taken place and we are evolved from lower animals, and hence sometimes we do exhibit some primitive features and we can rather call them more advanced now. So, sometimes there are twins, identical or non-identical. Identical, only 1 ova is produced, and when it is undergoing division, it divides into 2 and both will develop into 2 babies and they are identical twins. Sometimes in place of 1 ova, 2 are produced simultaneously and both are fertilized, and now these are non-identical twins. As far as fertilization is concerned, there is no problem of sperms. Sperms are in millions. As many ova are there, that many will be fertilized, but normally there is 1. In case of twins, there may be 2. If it is identical twin, there will be 1. So, as a rule, from 1 oocyte comes out 1 ova and 3 polar bodies, or in some cases only 1 polar body. Polar body though is haploid in nature, having half the number of chromosomes, but cannot act as ova and cannot proceed with fertilization or into the formation of a baby. So, with this we come to the end of this session of oogenesis, which is gametogenesis in a female body, which involves oocytes and also involves reduction division or meiotic division, and which results into formation of 1 ovum from 1 oocyte. I hope you have understood it. Thank you very much.